Arizona's premier live podcast studio and online radio.
Thank you for listening to Live the Dream Media.
Does your ordinary radio feel a little limited? If you're looking for a new way to listen, it's time for a fresh start. Introducing the Live the Dream Media app, your premier destination and a new level up for digital radio. Over the last 2 years, we've found new ways to ensure your digital radio experience is the best it can possibly be. From live podcasts that spark new perspectives to a 24/7 soundtrack of live music, and even our built-in merch store. We've built a platform that is convenient, high quality, and simple to navigate. But we're only just getting started. Catch all of our shows weekly and join the Live the Dream Media family today and help us change the airwaves forever. Download it for free on the App Store or Play Store today. Live the dream. The dream starts now.
Your favorite radio just got bigger, bolder, and better connected. Live the Dream Media is revolutionizing how you stay tuned in. With our explosive growth in online radio and our brand new mobile app, your entertainment goes wherever you do. Stream your favorite shows, discover new hits, and connect with audiences across the digital landscape, all at your fingertips. Advertisers don't miss out. Join our expanding digital network and reach engaged listeners across platforms. Download the Live the Dream Media app today and experience radio reimagined.
Thank you for tuning in to the Live the Dream Media Network. We've got an incredible slate of live podcasts waiting for you every week right here on our app. Get your morning started right with Wake Up, hosted by Christopher DeSimone, airing Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 a.m. The momentum continues every Monday morning at 9 with the Marana and Oro Valley Experience, hosted by David Samarano and Clint Peak, followed by Truth and Tell with Blair Lametti and Summer Smeaton at 10:30 a.m. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, join us at 9 a.m. for Southwest Flavor, and don't miss Sobriety, Spirituality, and Sales every Tuesday from 10 to 11 a.m. Every Wednesday at 9 a.m., Bruce Ash brings you the inside track, and we wrap up the week every Friday at 9 a.m. with former NBA player Bob Elliott on The Bob Elliott Show. It's all happening live every week. Stay tuned, stay informed, and keep living the dream.
Hey everybody, it's Chris.
Hey, it's David Samarano.
Hey guys, it's Clint Peak over here.
Hi, I'm Blair Lametti Mathias.
And I'm Summer Smeaton.
Hey, I'm Ron Arenas.
And I'm Will Pena.
Hey guys, I'm Mike Curry.
And I'm Mike Bader.
Hi there, I'm Bruce Ash.
Hi, Ed Wilkinson here.
Hi, this is Bob Elliott.
We are Live the Dream Media. Watch and listen to all of our shows Monday through Friday, only on the Live the Dream Media Network.
Hey, you found us on your feed. Are you wondering what Live the Dream Media does? I'm going to explain it to you. Let's go. First and foremost, Live the Dream Media is a premier digital advertising and marketing agency, but that's not all we do. We have also become one of the largest live streaming podcast platforms in the region, with our own online radio station and more on the way. Here's the coolest part. Right now, I'm standing in Studio B, where we are getting ready to put together an awesome state-of-the-art studio to continue the growth of this platform. One of the coolest things about Live the Dream Media is we take pride in being flexible. We enjoy the ability to make changes on the fly. If Live the Dream Media is a company you feel interested in working with and want to enjoy the flexibility and all we have to offer with our new podcasting network and our digital advertising abilities, reach out to us at contact@ltdmedia.net. Visit our website, livethedreammedia.com, or check us out on social media.
You're listening to the Live the Dream Media Network, your home for the voices that matter. We're bringing you a world-class lineup of live podcasts every single week, and it all starts when the sun comes up. Wake up with Christopher DeSimone every weekday morning from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock a.m. for a high-energy start to your day. Mondays stay packed after the morning show. At 9 o'clock a.m., join David Samorano and Clint Peak for the Muhrana Oro Valley Experience, followed by a deep dive into Truth and Tell with Blair Lometti and Summer Smeaton at 10:30. If you're craving local insight, catch Southwest Flavor every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 o'clock a.m. Or find your center every Tuesday from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock a.m. with Sobriety, Spirituality, Sales. Midweek belongs to Bruce Ash on the Inside Track, airing every Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock. And we're heading into the weekend with a slam dunk. Join former NBA star Bob Elliott every Friday at 9 o'clock a.m. for The Bob Elliott Show. It's more than just radio. It's your community in real time. Catch it all live on our app and start living the dream today.
Hi, this is Sean McCluskey, co-owner and designated broker for Rincon Ventures. If you're a rental owner by choice or by accident and you're looking to hire or change property management companies, consider Rincon Ventures. We employ an aggressive web-based advertising strategy to market your rental. We thoroughly screen prospective tenants and conduct routine property inspections. Our online system gives tenants the ability to pay rent and file maintenance requests instantly over the web. Our owners can use the same system to instantly check on their properties. Call Rincon Ventures at 881-2258 or visit us on the web at rvprop.com.
We've got an incredible slate of live podcasts waiting for you every week right here on our app. Get your morning started right with Wake Up, hosted by Christopher DeSimone, airing Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 a.m.
Welcome to Inside Track with Bruce Ash and Ed Wilkinson on the Live the Dream Media Network.
Hello, everyone, and a very pleasant good morning to you, wherever you may be. Welcome to a special edition of Inside Track. Bruce Ash going solo today from the Live the Dream Media Studios in Marana, Arizona. In just a couple of minutes, we're going to hear from our special guest, Republican candidate for Arizona State Treasurer, Katherine Haley, a very interesting person I think is well worth learning more about. And later in the show, we'll hear from Sons of Confederate Veterans who are standing up against this over a severe overreach by the Biden administration, who stole valor from soldiers who fought in the Civil War. Please, I hope you'll stay tuned for the entire hour today. I think you're going to enjoy the show. Hey, before we in the past week, Jews across the world remember the 6 million who were slaughtered in the Holocaust and the brave men and women who have stood up to stop genocide against Jews and, frankly, anyone else facing death by tyrants. UCLA, University of California at Los Angeles, has been a revered institution over the past century, but tragically not recently. UCLA's undergraduate student population, their government there, condemned a campus event featuring former Israeli hostage Omer Shem Tov, labeling the Hillel organized program selective platforming of narratives that obscure the broader reality of ongoing state violence and a troubling disregard for Palestinian life. The council, which represents over 29,000 students, titled 505 Days in Captivity, Omer Shem Tov's Testimony of Resilience, a bad thing. Shem Tov was kidnapped by Hamas from the Nova Music Festival on October 7th, 2023, and held captive in Gaza for 505 days. Hillel executive director Daniel Gold said Hillel at UCLA would like to apologize for absolutely nothing. Have we lost all sense of our humanity? After World War II, world leaders said, never forget, never again. Today, there are some of the world who proclaim, kill the Jews once again. Everyone must stand up to Jew hatred, no matter where it exists. We must stand up to hatred wherever it exists, also for all peoples, before we allow a renewed plan to eliminate the world of Jewish peoplehood in our world. Thanks for joining us today on the Live the Dream Media app or watching us on X, Facebook, YouTube, and our other platforms. The first half of today's show brought to you by our good friend Eric Rudin from Essential Pest Control. Call Essential to keep your home and business free from all forms of insects, vermin, and weeds. You can call them at 886-3029. Spring is here and the long hot summer is right around the corner. Bugs fear Essential. Call Essential Pest today to protect your home and business. Also supporting Inside Track is Ebb's great company, Wilkinson Wealth Management. I'm a client along with my sister. And our other sponsors, Tucson Iron and Metal Surplus, and my family-run company, Paul Ash Commercial Real Estate, where we make good things happen every day. Let's get things rolling for today's show. Our first guest today is Katherine Haley, Republican candidate for Arizona State Treasurer. Welcome, Katherine.
Thanks, Bruce. It's a real honor to be with you and your guest today.
Well, I'm glad you could have time out of your schedule to spend some time with us. Katherine, you were raised in the Phoenix area, a product of local schools, but you left Arizona to pursue higher education elsewhere. Talk briefly about growing up here and then your journey back east and how eventually you made it back to Arizona, because it's kind of an interesting story.
Well, thanks so much, Bruce. Yes, I grew up here in the Phoenix metro area, and I'm a graduate of Saguaro High School. Go SaberCats! Different than Saguaro and Tucson area. I'm an alum of Duke University. I was pre-med. I earned a Bachelor of Science in Psychology and really focused on human development with the goal of eventually becoming a surgeon. It took me to Washington, D.C., where I had the privilege of doing some cancer research and working on some research initiatives that intersected faith and medicine. And then eventually I found my way to Capitol Hill. I had the honor of serving members of the...
Catherine, that's a pretty big departure.
I know. Well, I think I know your faith is important to you. My faith is really important to me. And sometimes God takes you on a different journey. While I was applying to medical school, friends of mine who were working on Capitol Hill said, hey, you should come and join us on the Hill. You already have your 30-year life plan, but come and work with us. You'll have a great time. You'll learn a ton. And you can learn the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. And so off I went, and I had a moment where I was like, I am not supposed to go to medical school. Instead, I am supposed to be here on Capitol Hill working for members, and had an incredible opportunity to advance conservative policies for 13 years, working in the House and the Senate. My last 7 years were working for the Speaker of the U.S. House, building coalitions and helping to advance education, workforce, anti-poverty programs, and at the same time trying to combat the Obama agenda. So it was a phenomenal experience, and I'm so honored and privileged to be able to have served the members that I did and their constituents. I will say that the people I had the honor of working for, their focus was always on the constituents that elected them and got them to office. And so I really appreciated that view of public service. And then from there, I had the privilege of working for an organization called the Philanthropy Roundtable. They help philanthropists, donors around the country steward their investments. And so I traveled the country helping them find opportunities to invest in new school models, talent development, so helping to train our teachers so that they are equipped to meet our student needs in the areas of literacy, numeracy, STEM subjects, and the like. And then also helped with new interventions, so tutoring and other support so that families had the resources they need to thrive. Um, and that leads to the pandemic. I think for many of us, it was an opportunity to really think, pray, and sort of recenter of what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it. And that led me back home. It is a tremendous honor to be close to my parents. They live here in the Valley. And I started a company, a firm called Oak Rose Group, and we work at the intersection of policy, nonprofits, and philanthropy, helping to make sure those organizations have the strong foundation they need to thrive and meet community needs. So I've given you a lot and happy to answer any other questions.
So let me ask you a question going back to your childhood. Growing up here in Arizona, who are the people that you admired the most? And is there anyone who is alive? Because a lot of times we talk about people we like to hang out with and they're already dead. But who is alive that you'd like to spend an afternoon talking to?
Well, who is alive? I mean, I think many have great admiration for Justice O'Connor. I think she represented our state and sort of our Western values of opportunity and liberty. Um, and certainly not only here as a legislator, but also at the U.S. Supreme Court. But I've greatly admired Senator John Kyle and John Shattuck. I think both of them have represented our state incredibly well
They did.
at the federal level, really always keeping in mind what are the interests of Arizonans, and while articulating a very conservative constitutional view of the world, always being solutions oriented. If they opposed a policy, they had an opportunity to say, well, what about this? How do we help advance this? And I felt that they had not only themselves as members who were always focused on our state, they also had staff that I knew personally who were always focused on how do we lift up the constituents that we have the honor to serve. So those are two examples that I think have of two individuals that I think have done a very fantastic job on behalf of Arizona. But I'm happy to discuss others.
Yeah. So in a past life for myself, I was in Washington D.C. quite a bit, and whenever I seemed to be in the back seat of a cab going someplace, um, they'd ask you, where are you from? I'd say Arizona. They go, oh, John McCain, John McCain. And I would say, yeah, he's a show horse, but John Kyle is a workhorse. I think
He
it's
really served us
not
incredibly well.
not a knock on McCain, but John Kyle is probably more responsible for legislation that has positively impacted Arizona, not just in the past 25 years or so, but for the next 50 or 75 years, particularly with his work on water and conservation,
Exactly.
as well as he probably had the best grasp on national defense and our position in the world as anybody in the Congress.
I
He was
would agree. I would agree. Yeah.
what a
And
guy.
I mean, he played a role in healthcare
Yeah.
also. That's how I interacted with his staff when I worked on Capitol Hill. Um, and I would say that he did everything or has done. He's no longer serving Congress now, so I can. But he always served with a commitment to learning and understanding. Um, and determination to move the ball forward to really help improve um, the policy situations for our state, but also for our country.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great
He's
admirer.
very determined. I would always tell people you never want John Kyle on your 6 o'clock because if he's got a point, he's going to drive that home very, very hard with you. So you work for John Boehner in the U.S. House. Tell us,
Yes.
what was it really like working for John Boehner?
Oh gosh, I mean, we had an amazing team of real experts. I've individuals asked me, well, how do you know the details of that policy? My colleagues and I, we dug deep into understanding why the policy was what it was, what was the debate that was happening, in committee, what were the long-term implications that led to that policy conversation. And so it was a privilege to work with my colleagues. I learned so much from them, particularly those that were in budget and tax and energy areas where I was much less familiar. Um, but it was awesome. He really trusted his staff. He believed that he hired the best, and he expected that we would deliver the best. The role of the speaker is really interesting. Your constituents, instead of, particularly if you're serving in the leadership office, are less so the constituents that are back in the home district. Your constituents are members of Congress. So you have to understand what their position is, why they believe a specific thing, what's happening in their district. And that was a lot of fun. I had built coalitions in my capacity working for another member of Congress, Congressman Pete Hoekstra in Michigan. And he's now the current ambassador to Canada under this Trump administration. But we had to understand the nuance of the policy and help frame, if we needed to move a policy to yes, we needed to understand every angle of it in order to help educate the members either to get to yes or get to no. And that was understanding what was their motivation, what issues were happening in their districts, and frankly, how do we get how does this policy impact you directly? And so it was a phenomenal opportunity. We worked closely with our floor staff. They had a deep understanding of what was happening in the districts across the country. And then we were able to help leverage our understanding of the policy and how that would have either a ripple effect into their constituents. So I loved it. And then there was also the engagement with the outside organizations, the different associations. I worked on labor and employment related policy in addition to education and anti-poverty programs. And so we were always bringing the outside voice of how does this policy work? How has it impacted you? And then how would that impact our constituents, the members that were able to serve? It was awesome. It was hard work. We were on 24 hours a day, and but I absolutely loved it. And it was interesting. We were my first 2 years with Speaker Boehner, he was the minority leader. It was the beginning of the Obama administration. And, that those first 2 years were, uh, you know, the Obama administration and the Democrats had a pretty significant majority in the House and the Senate. In fact, Arlen Specter, a former senator of Pennsylvania, had been a longtime, more moderate Republican, switched to caucus with the Democrats. So they had a 60 vote threshold. So they were able to get anything they wanted through. We've talked a lot about the filibuster of late, and they were able to drive their agenda. And I learned a lot. And so when the House was swung back to Republicans in 2011, we were constantly pushing back against that Obama agenda, whether it was budget, appropriations, defense authorizations, education policy, workforce, regulations that were coming out of the National Labor Relations Administration, constantly strategizing of how to focus the policy back to citizens, back to workers, back to free enterprise, when the Obama administration was focused on a very different policy outcome.
So when you left DC, came back to Arizona, you talked about Oak Rose.
Yeah.
How did your experiences and the lessons that you learned in DC translate the most in Oak Rose working there?
One of the gifts of being able to go work in philanthropy and help funders, donors invest in their communities and make those strategic investments. What was fascinating is I had the policy background, and I should note that my pre-med background, and I had lots of different interests. It was amazing to be able to see how those at times seemingly incongruent ideas or passions or clubs that I was a part of showed up in my day-to-day meetings with constituents. It gave me a deeper understanding of the policy. The philanthropy side helped me understand the innovators and the disruptors that are happening all around the country that sometimes, whether it's in education, individuals launching new schools, there's a huge movement in the micro school movement, smaller schools that are helping to serve families and their children's diverse education needs. It gave me an idea of who are the leaders, who are the laggards, and how philanthropy could catalyze that. Oak Rose Group, we work at that intersection. We help policy in many ways come to life. We have helped launch several education funds that are for the purpose of launching new private school models in different states. The vision behind that is not only do we have a deep understanding in organizational governance, the importance of strong leaders, but also the impact of really strategic boards that can really help uh, strengthen that organization, but also how do you position an organization to attract philanthropy? And that's been a real gift to be able to understand the policy, understand the role of the organization and how it can help advance sort of freedom and opportunity. But third, how do you position that organization to attract grants and resources so they have the long-term sustainability to help serve their communities? So it's a tremendous honor to be at that intersection. Someone just asked me yesterday, what does the meaning of Oak Rose Group mean? It's a nod to my time in DC and a nod to my time here in Arizona. But oak trees symbolize strength, and you think about the deep networks that they have, and that's what our organization helps bring to our clients. So that sort of that strength and that deep network. The second is rose. When you think of rose, you think of beauty, but you also think of resilience. I mentioned just to someone yesterday, I saw this firsthand when I had moved home in 2021. I have a rose bush. I need to learn how to take care of it better, but nothing like seeing a rose bloom in July, which you think is impossible given our heat. And it's such a delicate flower, but it is so resilient. And I think many of our clients are just that. They're helping to serve our communities. And the last group is, it's the people we convene. We do a lot of convening and we manage working groups, but it's also the people we get to serve. And so it's been an amazing experience to take my policy experience, the work in philanthropy, and then sort of join those together in service to the clients we get to serve.
So Elisha Norton is also seeking the same position. He unsuccessfully ran for Congress 2 years ago against David Schweikert. He thought he had a clear shot to nomination for this statewide office. What happened on January 22nd?
I got in the race. I got in the race. I felt I had I currently serve as president of the State Board of Education, and it's an honor. Governor Ducey appointed me in 2022, and that has been just a tremendous privilege to serve our state in that capacity. It's an appointed role that is confirmed by our state Senate. And it's great to see that policy in action, the federal law, and then see how our state has interpreted it and then how the department is interpreting it. And it's been an honor, but it gave me some time to think about how else I could serve our state. And so when I had a conversation with Kimberly Yee at the beginning of the year and had an opportunity to really understand who else was in the race, I realized that you don't think about the treasurer's office until something significant happens. Either risky decisions are made or big bets are made, and then our taxpayer dollars are at risk. There's a huge connection to education. The treasurer's office oversees the Empowerment Scholarship Account contract, which helps families navigate and make choices on how they spend their ESA dollars, but also the 529 accounts. About less than 10% of students in Arizona have one. And some amazing things have happened in the last 9 years on federal policy that have expanded the use of 529s. Most recently in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, not only did they expand the allowable use for K-12 education, I should note most people know of 529s for higher education.
Sure.
So in 2017, under the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, they included policy that allowed individuals to spend it on K-12. Well, they doubled that allowance in the One Big Beautiful Bill, but they also made it possible for individuals to use their 529s to pay for workforce related training and apprenticeships. And I just think that that's so powerful that, let's give individuals and families the tools to help in a tax saving way. Uh, that opportunity to use resources available to them to train and prepare for the future. So, understanding what was at stake, I got in the race on January 22nd, and we have been off to the races. I think today is the 3-month anniversary of our announcement.
Yeah.
So, thank you for having me on your show.
So, Treasurer Yee has endorsed you. What does that
Yes.
mean to you? What does it mean for your campaign? And has she done any work to help prepare you, not just for the election, but for what comes later if you are elected here in Arizona as our next treasurer?
It is a privilege and an honor to have Treasurer Yee's endorsement. I think she has done our state a phenomenal service. She has doubled our state assets in the Permanent Land Endowment Trust Fund, which, when we sell our state lands that were given to us by the federal government before statehood, that the PLETF, as it's known, was $5 billion when she started in office. It's now 10.3%. She is, or $10.3 billion. Currently, that interest that's gained is between 9.8 to 10.1%, the interest earned. And I think she's done a fantastic job in that. She's also done an incredible job of managing, we have $64 billion cash management. So that's the funds that are coming in from the federal government, our state. It's also the investments that we manage, which is about $35 billion. So having her endorsement is incredible. I think she served us very, very well. I also have the endorsement of Eileen Klein, Dean Martin, Elliot Hibbs. These are other leaders that have served our state as treasurer. And, having their backing and the conversations that we have had over the last several months have been absolutely invaluable. Understanding the investment pools, how the role of the treasurer in serving our local communities, particularly our counties, um, have just been fantastic. Um, I do also have the endorsement of 4 other county treasurers. That includes Sue Ann Mello of Mojave County, John Allen of Maricopa County, Michael McCord of Pinal County, and most recently David Alexander of Yuma County. These are men and women that are on the ground doing the hard work. They have the experience, and our conversations have really shed a lot of light on what role the treasurer can do in helping to serve our counties, but also to be a strong steward of our state resources.
So we know that you have a primary election to get through, but there's a fellow by the name of Nick Mansour who looks like, because there's no opposition to him at this time on the Democrat side, he's going to be your opponent in the general election. I listened to one of his campaign ads this morning preparing for the show, and he talked about the things that he was going to focus on: right leadership, investing in education, creating jobs, driving economic growth, making sure you get a good return on Arizona's investments. I don't trust him any more than I do the current treasurer here in Pima County and some of the other Democrat treasurers here in Arizona and around the United States. They want to do some unbelievably bad things and poor ideas with taxpayer funds, with state assets. Talk to us, talk to our viewers, how you're going to make sure that you follow in the legends, what guys like Doug Ducey, Kimberly Yee have done through the years to help us in Arizona.
Yeah, so I think as far as an investment strategy, I don't think we should have a policy that promotes woke or social agendas. I really commend Treasurer Yee to really focus on sound financial principles and that lead to high quality investments and not things like the environmental sustainability governance or the ESG agendas or the BDS political mandates that I think ultimately distort capital allocation. So I won't. I believe in free markets, and I believe that we need to in the free enterprise system, and I will certainly maintain that. Under the state constitution, Arizona law really focuses on the commitment to safety, liquidity, and yield. So meaning you have to protect the dollars that are there. You can't make big bets, but you also need to maintain liquidity, meaning you need to be able to deploy the capital as necessary on designated times, whether that's for education, for local municipalities. Like if municipalities are investing with local government investment pools, you need to be able to get those dollars out to make sure our police and our troopers have the resources they need to do their job. And then the last is yield. So you need to have a diversified portfolio that, while protecting and preserving cash flow, you need to make sure that those resources are growing in a responsible way. I think the difference, I've heard Nick Mansour talk about his commitment to education. With the Permanent Land Endowment Trust Fund, there's additional resources that are invested in K through 12 education. There's been quite a bit debate on whether or not the legislature will recommend a new ballot initiative to extend Proposition 123. We can certainly have a conversation about that, but it's really important that we have wise stewardship. Nick has talked quite a bit about constraining and sort of bringing in the ESA program, and has specifically talked about homeschool families and believes that there's quite a bit of fraud for homeschool families. I would say that homeschool families are an incredible user of the ESA program, really making incredible decisions around curriculum, supplemental education services. All of those things are guided by the ESA handbook. And the claim that there is unbelievable fraud in the ESA program is actually about 2% or less. And sometimes families are making purchases that are ultimately paid back because they think, oh, well, in education, I'm going to buy a lunchbox or I'm going to buy a backpack. And so I'm very concerned about that and his view, particularly of education, wanting to rein that in. So I think there are some differences between us. He has criticized Treasurer Yee on not getting enough return. Both he, Nick Mansour, as well as Elijah Norton have criticized Treasurer Yee and not getting enough for taxpayers. And that gives me really great concern about what it is that they're trying to do that is not already permitted within state statute.
All right, final question for the day. I'm going to ask you the question that we ask every aspiring candidate here at Inside Track, and we've been doing this since 1995. Unfortunately, only about 2/3 of the people that we ask this question, they get the right answer. According to the Arizona State Constitution, what is the stated purpose of government?
That's a good question. I might get it wrong. Oh no. It's to serve the Arizona people. It's a delegated responsibility, but it's ultimately to serve Arizonans.
All right, let me. You
can educate me.
You got about 75% of it. The stated purpose of government in the Arizona Constitution is to protect and maintain individual rights deriving its powers from the consent of the governed. Now, I think you're on the track, and this is a little wonkier job than somebody in the legislature or the governor, but you probably will preserve the rights of all Arizonans by being a wise steward of our great assets that we have here in Arizona. And I thank you very, very much for coming in and talking with us. I hope you'll come back again sometime in the future. And actually, I lied to you. One last question. How do viewers find out more about you and support your campaign?
Thanks, Bruce. You can go to our website, which is katherinehaley4az.com. There you can learn about I'm sorry.
Haley.
Yes, KATHERINEHALEYFORAZ.com. And there you can sign up to get involved. You can contribute to our campaign. As you know, running statewide does require resources, and every dollar helps us get our message out, which is about wise stewardship, limited and efficient government, uh, lower taxes, and personal freedom. So thank you so much for the privilege, Bruce. It's an honor to be here today.
Good luck to you. It's time for us to pay some bills. We have to be wise stewards of our funds as well. No channel flipping. After we hear from the folks who help us pay the man and stay on the air, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Inside Track with Bruce Ash on the Live the Dream Media Network. Now a word from our sponsor.
America was conceived in liberty, dedicated to the notion that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with unalienable rights. To preserve them, we gather to read and reaffirm the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 8:30 a.m. at Udall Park, under the Tree of Liberty in front of the Rec Center, to read the Declaration together. On our 250th anniversary, let us be one nation, July 4th, 8:30 a.m. at Udall Park.
It's termite season.
Hi, it's me.
And bugs fear the blue trucks from Essential Pest Control. Go blue at Essential Pest Control. We'll eliminate those bugs, bees, and termites. And stop paying too much to that national provider. Buy local for great service and affordable rates. Call Essential Pest Control because termites fear the blue. Call for the blue trucks from Essential Pest Control. 886-3029. That's 886-3029. Or check online at essentialpest.com.
This is Eb Wilkinson with Wilkinson Wealth Management, where we manage money for gun owners. What does it mean to retire comfortably and remain comfortably retired? It means designing a plan that allows you to do the things you want to do, outpace inflation, and never run out of money in your lifetime. If you want to retire comfortably and remain comfortably retired, call me, Eb Wilkinson, at 777-1911. That's 777-1911 or WilkinsonWealthMGMT.com.
I'm proud to welcome my good friends at Tucson Iron and Metal Retail to Inside Track as an advertiser. Jamie Kipper and her staff are conservation experts. They sell round and square steel tubing, metal plate and roofing materials, as well as new and used steel, aluminum, and stainless steel to ranchers, artists, interior designers, roofers, as well as you do-it-yourselfers out there. Tucson Iron and Metal Retail is open Monday through Fridays, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and Saturdays, 8 a.m. to noon. Tucson Iron and Steel Retail, 701 East 36th Street. Call 520-209-1576. That's 520-209-1576. Or go to TucsonIronRetail.com. Come by and be sure to ask for Jamie. Tucson Iron and Steel Retail. This is what conservation and repurposing is all about.
Does your ordinary radio feel a little limited? If you're looking for a new way to listen, it's time for a fresh start. Introducing the Live the Dream Media app, your premier destination and a new level up for digital radio. Over the last 2 years, we've found new ways to ensure your digital radio experience is the best it can possibly be. From live podcasts that spark new perspectives to a 24/7 soundtrack of live music, and even our built-in merch store, we've built a platform that is convenient, high quality, and simple to navigate. But we're only just getting started. Catch all of our shows weekly and join the Live the Dream Media family today and help us change the airwaves forever. Download it for free on the App Store or Play Store today. Live the dream. The dream starts now.
Welcome back to Inside Track with Bruce Ash on the Live the Dream Media Network. Now back to our show.
Welcome back to Inside Track. This portion of the show brought to you by Eb's great company, Wilkinson Wealth Management. Eb helps my family, and he can help you also. Let Eb comfortably guide you and your family into a secure retirement. and stay comfortably retired. Wilkinson Wealth Management. Call him today at 777-1911. Okay, friends, we have two great men who have been on the show before with us, retired U.S. Army Officer Donald Smith and USN retiree Ed Karnes from the Sons of Confederate Veterans. They join us for the balance of the show today. Welcome, gents. Glad to have you with us.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so for decades, U.S. Army National Guard units that were descended from or had lineage ties to former Confederate units had battle streamers from their Confederate service on the regimental colors. The Naming Commission recommended that the Confederate streamers be removed, and the Secretary of Defense agreed. They were removed the summer of 2023. Let's talk about this and why it is so important to our country.
Okay, well, first, thanks for having us back on the air. We really appreciate it. First, let me explain exactly what battle streamers are.
Yeah.
Everybody's seen them, but you may not realize you have. If you've seen an Army unit march by in a parade, you'll see that they have flags in front. They've got the U.S. flag, probably the state flag, like the Arizona flag, but then they'll have another flag there, and that flag will be a color based on the type of unit. For example, if it's an infantry unit, it's light blue. If it's artillery, it's red. If it's signal, it's orange. If it's if the unit's signal, the colors, the flag is orange. If it's cavalry or armor, it's yellow. Those are the unit colors, the actual heart of the spiritual heart of the unit, so to speak. And then if you look at those colors, you'll see that there are colored streamers coming off of them. Those are battle streamers. Those are streamers that were awarded to the unit for either past or present courage, where the unit performed honorably in conflict. And one of the recommendations that the Naming Commission made, and the Naming Commission was created by the U.S. Congress to look at all Confederate symbology within the then Defense Department. And most people remember the Naming Commission as being the ones that recommended the names of the bases being changed for those bases.
The George Floyd Committee. The George Floyd Committee.
Yes. That's a good way to put it. But another thing the commission recommended was that these battle streamers be considered as honoring the Confederacy itself, the Confederate States of America, and therefore they should be taken off, and that's what the Secretary of Defense did. We think that was a mistake that Congress made in not stopping that, because those streamers should not be viewed as honoring the Confederate States of America or the elites or politicians who actually started the Civil War. Instead, they are honoring the veterans, the men who fought in those individual companies and regiments in those battles. And those streamers honor their heroism, their bravery, their sacrifice. They don't make a political statement, and
they state a fact. These battles took place.
That's right.
These units and these soldiers fought in those battles.
Exactly. If you look at the streamers themselves, they don't say Confederate States of America. They say the name of the battle: Vicksburg, Shiloh, Valley Campaign, where the soldiers in that unit fought. And one of the things we're really concerned about this is America has done a really good job in the past few years, especially since the Vietnam War, of recognizing that there's a difference between the governments and the elites and the politicians who start a war and the men and women who actually have to go out and fight it.
Right.
In Vietnam era, unfortunately, and both Ed and I remember because we grew up during that time, there was a lot of dissatisfaction with the Vietnam War at the very end. And unfortunately, a lot of that was taken out on the individual men and women who came back, where they were basically treated with silence or even disrespect, because people were taking out their dissatisfaction with the war itself on the men and women who had to go fight it, and that's a mistake. And so essentially what this Naming Commission has done is they have basically taken those those battle streamers and said, okay, these symbolize the Confederacy. These symbolize the fight for slavery, and that's wrong. And so what we have done is we have asked Congress, the Arizona members of Congress, to take action to have those streamers be put back on Army National Guard colors, something that's very easy to do. And we want them to do it in upcoming defense appropriations legislation, which is just the way the Naming Commission was created, by the way. It was added to some major legislation. And this is Congress's responsibility because it was Congress's commission. It was Congress's responsibility to oversee this commission In our opinion, they didn't. And so now they need to fix this problem.
So why hasn't the Secretary of War taken action on this? I mean, I think this is a whole new regime at the Department of War today. Why do you think Pete Hegseth hasn't taken action?
He has taken action on a number of things, but this is something very simple. It's probably down on the list of things to do.
Well, they're a little busy right now.
Yeah,
True.
well,
Yeah.
a little busy
Right.
right now.
He does have his hands full, we admit.
I have sent an email to the Secretary of Defense and I have not heard a reply, of course, he may not have read it. But anyway,
Right.
I think it's somewhere down on the list. It's very important that we push this and try to get something started on a local level so that it can progress through the chain. And we are in the process of doing that. We've put ads in the paper, not ads, but articles in the paper explaining our position and what the position is. Lloyd Austin was the Secretary of Defense during that time, and he did not do anything to stop the Naming Commission from doing what they did. And so anyway, I think that if once this little conflict with Iran gets over with, then maybe we can get Hegseth to do what he can do to get this done. It's a very simple thing. It doesn't cost the taxpayer anything.
So why do you think Congress refuses to explain itself or answer your questions? Because you've been trying to get a hold and make that contact even with our own delegation.
Well, this is a sensitive subject, admittedly. But I will tell you, when I first started researching this issue back in 2003, when the Naming Commission's report first came out, and I got hold of a staffer from an Arizona senator's office, and I will not name that senator or that staffer, but the staffer said that when Congress runs into politically sensitive issues like this, what they like to do is they like to create a commission, pass all the work off to the commission, and then let the commission take the blame. And that's not an honorable way to handle this situation, because we're talking about the legacy and the honor of thousands of men who fought honorably, and then their descendants, to include Ed and I, later became proud members of the United States military. And
that's important to acknowledge here. Both of you served honorably in the armed forces and had distinguished careers.
Yes.
And everyone expects their ancestors to be treated with respect, especially if their ancestor descendants have then gone on and honorably served the country. The impression I got was that Congress is trying to have plausible deniability with this thing. For example, we have asked 4 Arizona GOP congressmen to answer questions as to exactly what the Naming Commission meant in certain areas of its report. And in some cases, in the case of Congressman Ciscomani's office, they've had the questions for over 2.5 years. We've gotten no answers yet. So we've been good citizens asking Congress to explain its actions, and we're getting silence. I think it's because it's a politically sensitive issue. The problem is, though, is you can't go out and make declarative judgments about somebody's ancestors, somebody's heritage, without explaining what you did and why you did it and taking responsibility for what you did. So this is a congressional commission that made these judgments. Congress was responsible for it. They owe us answers. And one of the things that keeps coming to mind is one of the proudest American traditions in my mind is the way that American Minutemen behaved at Valley Forge when they were being trained by Baron von Steuben, the Prussian general. And von Steuben later said in his memoirs is that when he went out and gave orders to the American Minutemen, I mean, they're poor farmers kneeling in the snow, and they wanted to know why. They wanted him to explain what he was doing, give them reasons what he was doing. And he later said, if these were European soldiers, they'd have done exactly what I wanted them to do just because I'm a general and they're not. They're a different class. They would have just obeyed me. He said, these Americans are different. They expect their leaders to explain to them what's going on. And so we have asked Congress to explain the judgments of the Naming Commission, and we're getting silence.
Don't you think at the time there was such a furor over, I mean, I sort of jokingly referred to this as the George Floyd Commission, but it really was an outgrowth from that and the problems that were sort of amplified beyond reasonability.
No doubt.
In Missouri as well.
Right.
Pardon me. As well that same summer. There have been some changes that happened with respect to forts names. They've been able to bring back the same names, but they changed the actual person.
Yes, right.
Because they want Bragg or they want,
Right. And the reason that they weren't able to put the original Confederate names back on is that in a previous version of the National Defense Authorization Act, someone put a sentence in there that said you cannot name Army bases for Confederate generals. So that's why the Trump administration wasn't able to restore the names. So we're like, okay, if that's the way things are if that's how this is done, then what we did, the Arizona division of the SCV reached out to Arizona GOP members of Congress, and we asked them, okay, modify this year's National Defense Authorization Act and put a sentence in there that says that the battle streamers have to be flown on Army National Guard colors for units that had earned them. And as Ed said, the only cost of this is postage.
Right.
Simply mail the streamers back. And for people that are concerned about there being intense public sensitivity over this, go back to those images you've seen of those Army colors. You see the colored streamers off of them. You would have to actually go up to the flag and go through the streamers to see Confederate.
I've been to those ceremonies before, and I've seen what the streamers look like on the various flags. I've been to the Museum of the United States Army, just outside of D.C., and it's a huge display in the main hall of that building. I can't believe anybody would be so sensitized that
I can't
20
either.
or 4 or 18 or whatever the number is, that they would be there. But those people who have an interest in this, the sons and daughters of Civil War combatants, they know.
They blamed the politicians. They blamed the soldiers.
Right.
When I went to Vietnam in January of '68, when I left Vietnam in '69, we, on a plane, all the military people on the plane, we made a pact that if we encountered any descendants, people out there like the Flower Children or protesters, we were going to knock heads with them. And for years after I got out of the service, I never mentioned too much at all about being in the service in Vietnam because it wasn't the thing to do, the thing to be proud of. Until later, when like in the late 70s, or 82 is when they broke ground for the Vietnam Veterans War Memorial, and then 84 is dedicated. But before that, I went to Dallas and was in a Coliseum. I was listening to a speaker, and the first thing he did was say, do we have any Vietnam veterans in the audience? And well, I didn't want to raise my hand because I didn't know how people were feeling. But then one person did, another person did, and first thing you know, we had a whole bunch of people standing. And we were giving a huge reception from the audience. And that made me think.
There's a whole new perception.
It's a whole
today,
new perception.
isn't there, right?
And so right now, the Confederate soldier is being tore down. He's not being honored. Part of the our Confederate charge is that we honor our Confederate soldiers. And we also are the guardianship of his history. And so my great-great-grandfather, he made gunpowder for the Confederacy. He didn't have any slaves. He didn't fight to protect slavery. His brother was with the 33rd Virginia Infantry. He didn't have any slaves. But he fought anyway. He died in a prisoner of war camp. And you cannot throw away your heritage and your history because somebody doesn't like what you did or what they did. And a lot of people don't know the really facts. There was a saying that said, if a person who does not read is no better than a person who cannot read, You have to research. You have to look. You have to find it.
And people today, they see that phrase or they see something online, on X or so on, and they make the assumption that these are all bad people. In fact, I think, Don, you told me there was a significant number of men who were drafted. They were conscripted into
a lot of
the
people
Confederate.
don't realize that the very first conscription law in the United States was in the Confederacy. It was enacted at the beginning of 1862. So there were a lot of people who enlisted in the Confederate services who didn't want to get drafted, and they were also concerned about the way that they be perceived at home. And so, there were lots of reasons why people served in the military, in the Confederate services. Now, one of the things that concerns that I had as a veteran is how this is perceived in the ranks. And we've got a dangerous double standard here because the two primary reasons the Naming Commission gave for determining that Confederates don't warrant any respect at all or any commemoration from the Department of War, and that's their language, is that Confederate soldiers fought to support a regime that supported slavery, and they fought against United States troops. Well, Native American tribes did exactly the same thing. I mean, we don't call it slavery, but they took captives and held them. They not only fought against United States troops, but they tortured them along with civilians. And the Army continues to name helicopters for Native American tribes. Matter of fact, there's a new Army helicopter coming out, and its name is the Cheyenne. So I remember when I worked at Fort Huachuca, I had several people who were Southerners saying, we're continuing to name things for Native American troops, but all of a sudden we can't name things for Confederates. And one of the bad things is that if you have a double standard, American soldiers pick up on that.
Right.
And that erodes confidence in the institution if you're going to openly support and refuse to justify a double standard. And that's one of the things that's concerned us here is, for those of you out there that are listening that have absolutely no truck with anything Confederate, we should be concerned with how our government operates and how it treats people and how it explains its actions. And what's really been disappointing here is that, again, we have served our country faithfully. We have gone to our elected representatives asking them to explain their own actions. This is a congressional commission, and what we're getting is just silence. We get Jared and Brittany, the operator that picks up the office at the congressman's
call them
office.
legislative assistants.
That's right. And they're like, oh, the congressman takes your issue very seriously, and I'll make sure to pass this on. I mean, at some point you got to wake up and smell the coffee, and this is not right.
So e pluribus unum. Out of many, one.
Yeah, and
that it's one of the key symbols of this country, of this constitutional republic.
It's also one of the greatest strengths I think the United States has been able to take forward, especially in the past 50 years or so when we've had an expeditionary military where we are sending our forces to other parts of the world. And in some cases, trying to teach what we hope will be good, lasting lessons. It used to be that a sergeant major of an Army National Guard unit could take regimental colors, go up to soldiers and leaders from another country and say, see, these are my regimental colors. I'm the United States Army.
And they understand that in these other countries because they have their own versions
they
as well.
do. They do.
It's not unique to the United States.
Right. No. And we could then used to be able to point to Confederate battle streams and say, we have figured out how to take advantage of the honor and the courage and the heritage of people who were once our enemies, just like we do with those helicopters that are parked outside that are named for Native American tribes who once tried to kill people who are wearing this uniform.
Right.
That was a powerful symbol we had, which we no longer have. And it's frustrating to us, it's puzzling to us why nobody on this commission, who is made up almost exclusively of retired generals and one admiral, this didn't sink through. This apparently didn't resonate with them. And it didn't resonate with Congress either. We don't get it.
The children of Revolutionary War loyalists, Native American warriors we just talked about, they all fought with bravery and distinction in their own ways. There's not been a similar sort of a black mark put on Revolutionary War loyalists who were rooting for the British in the Revolutionary War. So again, why the distinction here? Is it all based upon this political flashpoint that occurred in May of 2020, or is there something else?
I think that was the primary trigger, and it seemed like the mindset is that Confederate heritage would be judged on one thing: the Confederacy supported slavery. So it's almost like that flipped or breaker switch, and nothing else about people who served for the Confederate forces was worthy of any commendation. And matter of fact, I'll just read straight out of the Naming Commission's report. In passing the 2021 William M. Mack Thornberry National Defense Authorization Act, the United States Congress determined that Confederates and the Confederacy no longer warrant commemoration through Department of Defense assets. Now, Stonewall Jackson is largely viewed as one of America's greatest battlefield generals. George Patton told Ike that he wanted to be Ike's Jackson. Chesty Puller, the great Marine general, carried a biography of Stonewall Jackson with him. Robert E. Lee, in the way in which he surrendered the Army of Northern Virginia to Appomattox, he told the soldiers to go home instead of scattering out into the woods and being guerrillas. Another Confederate general, Joseph Johnson, was given a direct order by Jefferson Davis to do exactly that. Tell his soldiers not to surrender to Sherman, but instead scatter out into the woods and we'll start a guerrilla war. Johnson was an honorable man, West Pointer. He refused to do that. He went against the direct orders of the Confederate president, and he surrendered his army, and that's really what ended the Civil War. And so according to this, though, we can't commemorate any of that now.
Yeah. So we're short on time. You've made the point, if we're now going to judge the actions of past Americans by modern standards and cancel heroes from the past, they fought for causes that we disapprove of today.
Where does it stop?
Where does it stop?
It does not stop.
Yeah. I mean, once you open that door, because it used to be that we had a general understanding that we realized that for the most part, men and women in combat fought from the man to the left of them to the man to the right of them. I think a lot of your viewers and listeners have heard that statement before. Well, the Naming Commission and Congress have called that into question now. It's almost like they said, well, that doesn't apply to Confederates. Okay, well then where do we stop? And I'll give you an example from Great Britain from relatively recent history. During World War II, the Royal Air Force conducted night bombing campaigns, area bombing campaigns on Germany, and some of those have now been determined to be considered war crimes. So because they recognized that these airmen were required to use relatively ruthless tactics, they did not honor them publicly. There was no memorial created to RAF Bomber Command until 50 years after the war.
I didn't know that.
And so most of those men, many of whom were in units where they might have been the only survivors because all of their friends got shot down, they didn't get a national memorial because the country was later ashamed of what they had sent them to do. Yeah. So there is precedent for this. Congress has been careless here with heritage, and they need to fix this. And putting the battle streamers on would be one way to do it.
So, gents, we need to close up the show today. Thanks so much. I wish we could have got you on sooner. We delayed having you on because there's been a little
war going
on in the world. But I hope to have you on again, and maybe there'll be some progress in this area.
I hope so. In the meantime, please contact your congressman and ask him to support the SCV's initiative to modify the National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, to mandate the flying of Confederate battle streamers.
All right, it's time to close up shop for today. Thanks so much for spending time with us on today's show. Many thanks to our special guest, Arizona State Treasurer candidate Katherine Haley, as well as Donald and Ed here from the Sons of Confederate Veterans. All of our Inside Track podcasts are available on Live the Dream Media's Facebook Live page, YouTube, Apple, and X. Before we close, two things you need to know before we close. First, let me remind you that our friend Christy Simone is running for Oro Valley Town Council. All successful campaigns depend upon financial support. Go to his campaign website, Chris4, that's F-O-R, Chris4OV.com. Let Chris know you support him by donating to his campaign like I did. Whether it's $5 or $5,000, it makes a difference. Also, local patriot and our friend of the show, Charles Heller, plans a special reading of the Declaration of Independence on the 250th anniversary of our country's founding on July 4th. More information to follow on that. We played the first of his ads on that show or on that event coming up. And who knows, maybe we'll even have a Charles sighting here on Inside Track. Thanks for joining us tonight on Inside Track. Please tune in next week when we have another action-packed show planned for you. Until then, for Ed Wilkinson, this is Bruce Ash. See you again in 167 hours.